And I may need to jump off, but Mike will be here if I have to jump off.
Okay. Thank you. I'll go ahead and get started then. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Tucson-Pima County Historical Commission Plans Review Subcommittee meeting of Thursday, September 8th, 2022. Call to order at 1:01 p.m. In lieu of roll call, I'll go ahead and just call roll. Terry Majewski is here. Carol Griffith.
Here.
Savannah McDonald.
Here.
Joel Ireland.
Here.
Ricky Riojas.
Here.
Great, thank you. And Commissioner Mulder is not here. Okay, item number 2 is approval of the legal action report / minutes for the meeting of August 31st, 2022. Could I have a motion to approve, please?
This is Carol. I move that we approve the legal action report for August 31st, 2022.
As submitted?
As submitted.
Great, thank you. Is there a second?
This is Ricky. I'll second.
Great, thank you. Is there discussion on those minutes? Okay, I'll go ahead and call roll on the vote. Terry votes aye. Carol?
Aye.
Savannah?
Aye.
Joel?
Yes.
Ricky?
Aye.
Thank you. The minutes are approved unanimously 5-0. Okay, item 3, historic preservation zone review cases, and we review these under UDC section 5.8/TSM 9-02.0.0 and historic district design guidelines and the revised Secretary of the Interior standards and guidelines. Our first case, 3A, is HLS 22-001 at 143 West Drockman Street. This is for the Tucson Inn sign restoration. It's for restoration of the existing sign, designation as a historic landmark sign. It's a full review in the Miracle Mile National Register Historic District. Jody, do you want to give some background on this case? And because it's the first one we've had for a while, we should probably review what we're actually looking for here after the presentation. We'll have to list the character defining features, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Jody?
Correct. And I'm going to share my screen so you can see it, hopefully. Heather Thrall, our sign guru, prior to this meeting, sent me some items. She bullet pointed the items that you kind of have to be looking for and putting on the record. Can you guys all see my screen?
Yes.
So we reviewed this at the last meeting. It was set up as a courtesy review. We don't do it. The property is owned by Pima Community College. And so it was initially set up as a courtesy review, just to look at it. But as the discussion merged, it was talking about designating it as a heritage landmark sign. In order for us to take any action, it actually has to be not a courtesy review. We have to have it as an action item, which is why it's back on this agenda for today. Once it gets designated, if it gets designated as a heritage landmark sign, because it is on the property owned by Pima Community College, we won't actually be able to do enforcement of it. So it's kind of a commemorative thing that we're doing, honorary thing that we're doing if we designate it, unless they sell the property, and then we would be able to actually regulate the property. But moving forward, we do have other properties that are owned by U of A and the county and stuff that are historically designated on our register. So we still have to treat it as a formal action so that you can make a motion to do that. But the things on this bullet point that Heather noted that we should be looking for, noting on the record, indicate this is a classic error HLS request due to the age of the sign, construction being prior to 1961. Clarify the sign is a detached self-supporting pole sign comprised of 6 poles and 7 cabinets, but is uniquely built to extend through the roof of the portico. Clarify if the incandescent bulbs of the arrow are any chaser or animated bulbs or static function. Clarify the actual character finding text on the sign, meaning this text will always remain, i.e. Tucson. Up to them if in would remain. If it is sold in the future, adaptive reuse could be done there. Clarify all the actual character defining features of the sign, i.e. the unique layout of the sign, the distinct cabinetry for each of the 6 letters, the composition as detached, but extending through the above roof, the style of the arrow built with the central cabinet, use of 3 colors of neon and also incandescent bulbs. All the things are character defining features that would stay on the sign should the property be sold in the future and adaptive reuse proposed. Clarify if any parts of the sign need to be removed and replaced during restoration, with reconstruction done at as close as possible with materials used as is allowed by during the HLS designation, but may be important later if the property is sold by Pima County to a private party. And photos should be taken of the reconstruction as it's underway for record later. And Jude Cook is also here. He is the sign guru when it comes to restoration. And he can help answer any questions.
Okay, Jody, I'm thinking, so it's kind of backwards because it's not designated. So is part of the motion to designate or just to review the restoration proposal as if it were?
No, part of the action would be it would be a multi-action. You'd be designating it. You would, in the previous, my stupid watch. In the previous meeting, you actually reviewed the restoration.
Right.
But you would be designated in this, and you would be calling out all of these unique features that make it something that can be designated, is eligible for designation.
So really, okay, so we're just reiterating what was discussed during the courtesy review for the restoration.
Yeah, I mean, most of that discussion was not on the character defining features. It was really on the restoration.
Okay, so
How he would do it, the neon that he would use, etc. That was what was discussed at the last meeting.
okay, so it would be helpful if you could bring this up again when we're getting ready to do a motion, okay? Because or email it to us and somebody who's going to do the motion can print it out, you know, because there's a lot on there.
I'll email it to everybody so you can have it with you if you decide to make a motion. Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Does that work for everyone? Because I can't, you know, I was trying to save that screen but couldn't. Okay. All right. So Jude, are you going to make the presentation?
I can certainly try again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, computer seems to be working today. So this project, I have no qualms that it warrants being designated as a historic landmark sign. It has everything that it could possibly need. You know, it's got exposed neon. It's got a letter style that would have been basically designed by a sign guy back in the 60s or 50s when it was built. It's got incandescent bulbs. It's got the arrow. It's got the shape. It's tall. It's, you know, projecting through the roof. You know, it has everything you could possibly need to make it what I would consider warrants being designated historic. You guys have any specific questions for me?
Do you have a presentation to show us?
Jody, can you share the screen that we had from last time? Because no, I didn't realize we were going to have to do a presentation again. I thought we covered that last week.
Well, I mean, commissioners, you were on, I was not on last week, unfortunately. So, I mean, are you prepared to make a motion without that, or do you want to go over everything again?
I think it's fine. This is Joel. I think it's fine. We went over all these things in detail, the unique characteristic of the lettering, the color of the lettering, the bulbs, the neon, you know, this distinct cabinetry. I mean, we went through it all, I think, the 3
But
color.
what we're saying is to actually designate it as and HLS, we have to reiterate all those things again. So is someone prepared to do that to the letter?
You know, in the letter that Heather had provided has the characteristics that we need to address, but if you need basic items, it's the exposed neon, the letter style, the incandescent bulbs, the arrow, you know, the fact that it's built through the parapet or built through the canopy, to me, all qualifies it as, those are the points. I'm not good at wording this stuff to tell you how to put it into the, what do we actually say, into the wording you need for what Heather's asking, but I think Heather's pretty much called it out in the write-up that she submitted.
Okay. So do we have a commissioner willing to make that motion? And Jody, just tell us again, we need to do the designation motion that we recommend it for designation, plus approve the plan for restoration because it was only a courtesy review last time.
Yes, you would basically be doing that. You all, but during the designation, you want to call out the character defining features, and you should all have that email. Because like Jude said, basically Heather spelled it all out.
Okay, can someone, is someone willing to make a motion and can they print that out and follow that email? Savannah, are you-
I am driving, so I can't, but I'll be home in like 3 minutes if nobody volunteers before then.
It's okay, Ricky. I'm happy to. I guess I'm just a little confused about the text that we were sent. If we are just repeating that back because it
No,
does
we have
list
to-
out all those.
we have to agree with it. I mean, we have to, I'm gonna get my printout. Hold on just 1 second. Maybe 30 seconds.
Maybe we go through it point by point, make sure we all agree, and then I'm happy to kind of repeat it back as a motion.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. You all there?
Yes.
Okay, so that first point is that it's a classic era. So we don't have to mention anything about that, right? Or do we need to? She said we need to indicate that it's a classic era HLS request due to the age of the sign. Constructed in 1953. It's obviously prior to 1961. Okay.
Sounds good.
And then we clarify, we just basically do these descriptive statements, clarify that the sign is detached, self-supporting pole sign, etc. And in that unique thing where it's built to extend through and above the portico roof. So what about this? Clarify if the incandescent bulbs of the arrow are chaser or animated bulbs, are they, Jude?
They were chaser animated, and if they will allow us to do it, we want it to be chasing, but I have to get that clarified. So I would allow for it, not saying that you're condoning it, because they've always questioned flashing lights as being a hazard, but it had it for 50 or 60 years. And we have the flashers that were in the sign originally, and we'd like to reinstate them if the code will allow us to do it.
Jody, does the code allow it?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer for you. Maybe.
Maybe we could just say something that that we would clarify that and that it would be rehabbed in that manner provided code allows for the chaser lights.
I think that's a good decision.
Yeah, so basically, are they, is chaser and animated, is that the same as, are those synonyms?
I would just say animated.
Animated shadow chaser, okay.
Okay. And then what did you all discuss last time that you thought the text, the character defining text should be?
I feel like it should be Tucson and N because it has the arrow. But I understand that the email that we got only specifies Tucson. But the whole sign only makes sense because it was pointing to an N.
No, and basically, Ms. Thrall said that it was up to us if in would remain, if, right, if it is sold in the future, adaptive reuse could be done. I'm kind of confused by that, but, Jody, what's your recommendation on that?
I see what Heather is saying. So she's thinking that in the future, if somebody wanted to keep Tucson, but remove the word in and put some other word in there. There is, if you're looking at the screen right now, there is this section down here. I don't, Jude, is that still there? This like little,
Cabinet sign's gone. The changeable letter thing that was there, that's been gone for years.
but they could do, in theory, they could do a cabinet just like that down there and still keep the in.
Yeah, maybe. With the new code we have, you might be able to do that. We didn't used to be able to make that kind of a change. I'm gonna give you my point of view on this, and it doesn't have to make the decision, but this sign, in my mind, I would say Tucson and the N needs to be character defining, even if that restricts the future use of it, because I can't see what it ever else would be. And when I've dealt with the historic signs I've seen all over the country, I think it's more important to maintain its original integrity in this situation. We've got that ability on the Pueblo Hotel sign. We have one panel down there that we can modify to have it say something else. And it's fairly innocuous. On this thing, you could go either way. I personally would make the Tucson and the in character defining features because I think it should be left alone.
I would concur with Jude on that. That's why I was asking about that panel, like somebody could in the future put something down there.
Right, right.
As a side note, I texted Heather. She said on Heritage, asking about the chaser lights, she said on Heritage landmark signs, they do, if it doesn't bother traffic safety. The Tucson, they would allow them. That means the Tucson Inn would not be in an area of traffic safety concern, though it's an exemption in the outdoor lighting code to allow it for those on designated signs. So it could be a chaser light.
Keep that in there then, because that's really, I think, an important feature of the sign.
Okay, so the animated bulbs, that's a term the animated.
I would say the animated incandescent bulbs in the arrow.
So Jody, was Heather, I saw those messages pop up on the screen. Was she on the call for a while?
She was not, she's not able to be on the call. I was just chatting with her through the Teams function.
Oh, okay, so I see now. I just, because I saw those as well. Okay, so if we agree that the Tucson Inn wording would remain, and then the panel would be part of the restoration and could have new text, correct? That we're thinking?
Well, that bottom panel isn't currently existing there.
But isn't that going back, Jude?
There hasn't been any discussion of putting it back on.
I'm just saying in the future,
Could.
It could be something like if somebody wanted to change that function or use that sign for something else, you could leave Tucson in and the new business could be advertised in that cabinet that's down below. Cause there's obviously a, something that was there. So I mean, I think you have precedence for having something there.
But
That was
would we, yeah, would we want to say that we would like to see that panel restored or just not say anything about that?
I wouldn't say anything about it. I would just say, I mean, it's an idea that could be represented later on should something change.
And would they
But-
come back then with another proposal at that time if this is a designated sign at that time?
If Pima Community College sold it and somebody came back, then yes, they would come back because it would be designated.
Okay.
If Pima Community College just decided to keep it forever, like I said in the beginning, they wouldn't have to come back.
Right, okay. And then let's talk about the actual character defining features on the sign, because they'll have to be mentioned in the motion. I mean, is it just as noted here by Heather, the unique layout of the sign with distinct cabinetry for each of the 6 letters? Composition is detached but extending through and above the roof. The style of the arrow built with the central cabinet. Use of 3 colors of neon. And what colors do we have again?
We have turquoise, red, or let's see, pink, white, and green.
And yellow.
Red on the back of the cabinet was what we discussed, I think. Is that correct, Jude?
We've got yellow in the word in.
Okay, and yellow. I know we had a lot of discussion about whether the turquoise or the red on the background. Okay.
Does anyone remember that additional discussion?
Was
I
pink-
remember talking about the red in the background, just as the red paint.
yeah, the red paint.
Yeah, that
And-
red was determined because Jude found a lot of red and she was sanding it down to figure out what the original color was.
Right.
These are all colors that I found as I was sanding through the layers. And you find a lot of stuff because these things get painted every 10 or 12 years. But this seems like the most comfortable color combination of what we proposed.
Should we just say color combination as proposed and then, or do we need to?
I don't know if I would call the colors as a character defining feature because of all the different colors I did find. I don't think you need to call the color out. I think if you stay with the neon, the incandescent bulbs, the shapes of the letter cabinets, the basic design of the sign, colors a slippery slope because it could have been a variety of different things.
And so as Heather suggested, Jude, that one of the features might be use of 3 colors of neon and also incandescent bulbs.
And that, I agree with that.
Okay, and then do we say anything about the red paint background or a painted background?
I don't think you need to address that.
Okay,
I had a question about the color background. So I know we had discussed the Tucson part being a bunch of different colors, but the part that's in with the arrow, was that backboard always yellow?
From what I could tell, yes. I mean, I have photographs of how I sanded through it, and that is what I found. And it seems to hold true with the photo that's on the screen right now, is that the yellow was the color in the arrow anyway.
Okay, thank you.
okay. Okay, and then we need to clarify if any parts of the sign need to be removed and replaced.
It might not be a bad consideration to say that the panel below the Tucson Inn could be considered for reinstallation at some point in the future, as long as it matches the proportion of what was there originally.
This is Joel. I agree with that. I think that box ought to be somewhere in the record. So if somebody does reapply, there's a record of that was okay with us.
I agree with that.
Okay,
I missed that. I was just taking notes. What was the addition?
The panel underneath in,
Okay.
to put in that, that could be added in the future, should it be needed.
and that was like Heather's last point, right? That we probably should, because then they would just, Jody, would they have to come back then? Well, never mind. Let's just, yeah, I think we should mention it.
And I'm pretty sure anybody that was gonna come back and try to change this would need to go through a process again anyway. But if we allow for that panel, I think we have less chance of anybody messing with the, the Tucson in part of it.
I agree, and then it's there for the record, because it may be, as Jody mentioned, a long time or never, or, if a lot of time passes, then it might not be remembered.
Exactly.
And then this whole idea of photos should be taken of the reconstruction as it is underway. The reconstruction should be photo documented or something like that.
We're doing that.
But I think she was hoping that on the record it should be mentioned. So is there anything else, commissioners, or are we ready to make a motion on the designation process? And then Jody, what is a separate motion needs to be made on the restoration? Or that could be an add-on to this, to the designation motion?
I mean, you can do it as a separate motion, I guess. That would make sense. Just keep them clear.
And basically just say the restoration, recommend approval of the restoration as proposed, if that's the case.
Yes.
And should that be where the last bullet goes?
I have to bring up that email again. I would say yes.
Okay, does that make sense, commissioners? So the first 5 bullets would go into the designation motion or something like that, and then the second motion after we vote on the first one, correct? Okay, Savannah.
I just have I have a quick question. We talked about the panel at the bottom, and we are requesting that be put in now for the future addition of adaptive reuse signage. Is that correct?
No, I don't think so. We were going to say that it could be.
Just could be. Okay.
I think, is that what everybody thought?
Judy, is that what you're thinking?
Could be, I think could be as a possibility. I would not include.
Okay. All right,
Got it. Okay.
you ready to go, Savannah? And probably it'd be easier if you just made both motions, but let's make one at a time. Vote on it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, let me do the first one first. I made notes on that one. So I move to recommend designation of the project as presented for the Tucson Inn sign as a heritage landmark sign with the following notes. That this is a classic era HLS request due to the age of the sign construction being prior to 1961. That the sign is a detached self-supporting pole sign comprised of 6 poles and 7 cabinets, but is uniquely built to extend through and above the portico roof. The incandescent bulbs of the arrow are animated bulbs as allowed by code. That the character defining text on the sign will always remain, including Tucson and Inn. That the panel at the bottom could be added in the future as needed to clarify signage for potential adaptive reuse. And that all the actual character defining features of the sign, for example, the unique layout on the sign with distinct cabinetry for each of the 6 letters, the composition as detached but extending through and above the roof, the style of the arrow built with the central cabinet, the use of the 3 colors of neon and also incandescent bulbs. All those things are character defining features that would stay on this sign should the property be sold in the future and adaptive reuse proposed.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Carol.
Okay, is there discussion on that motion? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and vote. Terry votes aye. Savannah,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Joel,
Yes.
Ricky.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes 5-0. And then we need the second motion about recommending approval of the restoration.
Okay. I will move to recommend approval of restoration of the project as presented with the following notes. That if any parts of the sign need to be removed and replaced during restoration with reconstruction done as close as possible with materials used as is allowed during the HLS designation. And that photos should be taken of the reconstruction as it is underway for the record later.
Okay, is there a second on this one?
I'll second.
Okay, it's Carol again. Is there discussion? Okay, Terry votes aye, and then Savannah,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Ricky,
Aye.
Joel.
Yes.
Great, thank you. And that one passes 5-0 as well. So is there any question or where do we go from here, Jody? Is there a letter? What's the next step?
I believe a letter is issued. Michael has actually done the heritage landmark signs designation before, but I believe a letter is issued out to the applicant to let them know that it's been designated as the heritage landmark sign.
Okay, and then the designation, what happens after we recommend that it become designated? It is, or does it need to go somewhere else, mayor and council, or?
Nope, it's you guys, as I understand correctly, and then we'll have it listed. We're actually talking about revamping our heritage landmark sign webpage. So it would be listed on there. Michael, did you have anything to add to that?
No, you're correct, Julie. A letter is going to be sent out, letting the applicant know that it has been designated. And then Heather maintains a registry of all the signs, all the heritage landmark signs.
Okay, and the letter would contain all this.
Yes, it will contain all
motion.
it will contain all what you have put in your motion, the character defining features, the letters, the text, and any other condition that you would like to see. That will be contained in the letter. And of course, a sample of that letter will be shared to all the PROS members.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, I think we can go ahead with case 3B, which is HPZ 068 MGD 1501 at 876 East University. This is for construction of shade structures at the first and second floors on the north facade. It's a full review. It's in the West University National Register Historic District and clearly in the historic preservation zone too, correct?
It is not within the historic preservation zone.
Oh, okay. It's a contributing resource, rehabilitation standards would be used. So are we simply looking at this?
For consistent, the
Okay.
Secretary of Interior standards, yes.
Okay, got it. All right, do you want to give us the
Jesky,
background?
members of the PRS, it's Maria Galloso. The property, it is on HPZ. It's on UHC1 specifically. So it is within the locally designated designated historic preservation zone.
Oh, thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you, Maria, for the correction.
Mhm.
So it's in both the National Register District and the HPZ, right?
That is correct with a contributor on site.
Got it. Okay, that's why I was a little confused. Thank you. Okay, so
We-
who's going to give,
Oh, did you want some background on it? We've had a number of properties lately that have been right in that area, either in the district or not in the historic preservation zone. To give you a little bit of background, the property was reviewed by the West University Historic Zone Advisory Board on August 16th. They approved or recommended approval of it with no conditions as presented.
okay, so I assume that the folks from Rob Paulus Architects will be presenting. And before you start, could I have everyone's names, please, for the record?
Oh, sure. I'm Rob Paulus.
Mhm.
I'm Kenneth Lowe.
I'm Daniel Hutcherson.
Daniel, how do you spell your last name? I'm sorry.
HUTCHERSON.
And then Kenneth, you're LOWE?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, sorry, it's just that
Oh, no worries.
it's hard to hear. Thank you. Okay, go ahead with your presentation.
Yeah, I'll keep this really short. Essentially, we did this project a number of years ago, took the old. Oh, yeah, let me share the screen here.
Yeah, we'd like to see it.
Okay, okay, does everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay, so a project, it's, what has it been, 5-6 years? We converted the old Franklin's Men's store to Illegal Pete's, which essentially was done per the Secretary of Interior standards. Basically turned it from, it literally had the same guts as a house. So we were able to put beams and girders in and get rid of walls and turn it into a restaurant. As what's been happening, in fact, we have a couple other projects in our office, the same kind of thing where people are revamping, you know, they get into a space years later, they need shade, even during the winter time. So that was Pete's concern. And there is a Pete, his name's Pete Turner, amazing guy, does living wage for all of his restaurants. I think he has like 12 or 13. This was his first out-of-state venture. So essentially he came to us again and said, how do I do something with more shade that's that works with seating and everything else. So in essence, we're in some cases replicating what's next door and kind of around Tucson in general, but the idea of more of a permanent shade cloth. We originally used 2 jumbrellas, which honestly, it's so intriguing to me to think that historic wants you to see the building, but you can put anything, a bus could go in front of the building and you can't see it. And that's what would happen with the jumbrellas is we put these in, they're removable, collapsible, but the reality is they obscure a lot of the historic. And so we came up with a scheme of, there's a couple months out of the year, I think Pete would actually leave it open, but the idea of a simple steel structure with minimal size that basically supports these Roman shades. And a Roman shade is really just a continuous shade that you can open and close. There's a lot of precedent for it. It works really well. I think there's a reason why they call it Roman shades, because they used it in Roman times. It's been around a while. So maybe go to the next image, which really shows what we're doing. These images are set into real photos of the building, and they show kind of what we're doing, where we're taking leaving a gap, which I love to do. I mean, you can go all over the world and see where they put new next to, in some cases, thousands of year old buildings in Italy, say, and there's a gap. So we're very big on that gap. It does a lot of things. A lot of what we do as architects is personify and amplify the blue sky that we have in Tucson, indoor, outdoor. So that gives us a chance to say this is new and this is old. This is a 1911 building, actually. It's intriguing. It's been through a number of machinations. I think this is the 4th or 5th variation of the use of this building, which once again, I find extremely intriguing. It's a basically box of a building, but we kept it all intact, and everything new has this gap, and then something new happens, which is per the Secretary of Interior standards. So that's something that we did here, existing, and then the new, and it's really just inserting a shade element on the lower floor that pulls up from the existing structure of what was just an entry canopy that then was turned into a balcony. And the same thing happens on the second floor, where we play off of the kind of fascia line, and then that pulls away, it comes up a little bit higher, and then with the minimal height that we can structurally use, it creates a boundary or a frame for this Roman shade. So some shots of the building, in particular that east facade, which was really fun to generate. We needed new bathroom space and some storage on the lower level. So the existing building had this kind of solid cube-like thing in the back that was separated from the existing building with more of a glass feature, which is something seen literally throughout the world. There's a great building in Milan that has that same exact feature. So going from left to right, there's that interlude of space in between, which is more glass, the old 1911 building. And then for the canopies, we're trying to do the same thing, a transitional space between old and new. There's a gap between both the top floor and the bottom floor. We also have a gap, which I don't know if it shows up in any of our renderings, that signifies kind of a subtractive element that alludes to where the front door is. Very big on these non-verbal or non-narrative cues to show you where the front door is.
You can kind of see here.
Yeah, there's a gap that's on both levels to signify kind of where that front door is. Yeah, you can see it here. Kenneth has it up on the, and this is actually a great view to show too, is that it's interesting with, in our case, the Jumbrella, which is a 16-foot, they have different sizes, but we use a 16-footer square. It kind of obscures a lot of the elements, but the interesting thing about this scheme, I think, is from the front on elevation and the street view, you'll actually see more of the existing historic structure in lieu of the temporary shade that we had before. There's not much else to that. There's a lot of structural things we're doing to make this all work. One thing we are doing, which isn't necessarily under your purview, is all the lighting, the misting, the sound is all going to be kind of contained up in that structure. So there's no things loose hanging off, which you see a lot in restaurant spaces. So even that alone, I think, is done per the approach of the Secretary of Interior, where you leave what's old, you can see it as much as possible, and then what's new, you pull it away, and it is something new. Which in this case is very utilitarian, just a steel channel outer rigging system for this Roman shade piece. These other drawings just say what was there, what is new, and then kind of the eclectic, if you will, combination of building structures. Even the modern streetcar stop is pretty eclectic. And we also wanted to show in this is whether it's legal or not, but the two adjacent buildings have pretty much taken over the entire front, which is awesome. It's related to even COVID. Just people now have experienced outdoor dining and realize it's great. You can have a temperature fluctuation. There's ways to mediate it with misting and heaters, say, but this outdoor space has become a lot more viable. Even the education of people realize that they can stay outdoors and dine. So it's in keeping with already what's happening on University Boulevard. So I think that's it, unless anyone else has any questions.
Okay, well, let's take questions. Commissioners, anyone have anything they'd like to ask about? Comments? Are we okay with it? I want to say, Rob, so the Roman shade itself is retractable, yes?
Yes.
Okay, depending on if they want light to come through or the moon or something, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. It's interesting. Last night I was eating outside and that was the highlight is looking up at the moon as it came up.
Yeah. Okay,
This is
is,
Joel, this is
go ahead.
Joel. Yes, you know, it seems interesting that when we have a wonderful presentation like we have here, that I become silent because this is a really good presentation. I actually watched the presentation August 16th at the WUZAB meeting, and there was the same reaction there. This is a complete presentation that sort of answered questions before they even came up. And so I like the fact it's detachable, that it's going to be put up without, you know, making any destruction to the building, and could be taken down without such destruction also. So I would vote for this right now. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, other commissioners?
This is Ricky. Yeah. I like the idea. I do like the versatility of it. Because I think a lot of times we see stuff that's just permanent. So thank you for the presentation.
Oh, great.
Carol, do you have anything?
No, it was a really complete presentation, and actually in your illustration, it actually looks less intrusive than in the photographs that you've done here. When you look head on from the street, you really, it's very minimal impact to the front of the building.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
thank
you
you.
know what, I liked when we saw the rendering from that side where it shows the front and the back with those same
Right.
lines, that really, where the east facade, I really liked
Yeah.
the sort of continuation of the new in the rear and the front. It looked, I liked it. Okay, Savannah, did you have anything?
No, I echo all of your guys' comments and thank you for the presentation.
Did I forget anyone? I got everyone. Okay, who would like to make a motion then on this?
Okay, I guess I'll go ahead and do it in the matter of HVZ 22-068, 876 East University. I recommend approval as presented.
Great, who will second that?
This is Ricky. I'll second.
Great, okay, is there further discussion? If not, I'll go ahead and call roll. Terry votes aye. Ricky,
Aye.
Joel,
Yes.
Carol,
Aye.
Savannah.
Aye.
Perfect. It approved unanimously 5-0. And Rob and friends, you are aware of the drill, I'm sure, or do you have any questions for Jody?
I don't think we have any questions. Yeah.
I'll be in touch with you guys with a decision notice.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Good presentation. Take care.
Yeah, take care.
Okay, let's move on to item 4, which is Task Force on Inclusivity Report Recommendations. 4A is discussion on best practices for naming of city and county owned physical assets discussion. That's redundant here, so we could probably in the next agenda get rid of that second discussion. Anyway, no update. All right, let's move on to item 5, current issues for information discussion. Item 5A, minor reviews. Michael, are you reporting on that?
Yes, Madam Chair. We didn't have minor reviews this week because the applicants, some of them were out of town and requested that I should hold on that. But I do have them that will be ready for, some that will be ready for next week, and the other will be ready the week after. I have a minor review for solar panel in Amory Park at 537 South 4th Avenue. I have 2 other reviews for Amory Park for fences. The owner was out of town, but she's back on vacation now. One is at 337 East 13th Street. and one is at 732 South Third Avenue. I have, like I said last time, I have a minor review for a sign in West University. I have a minor review for solar fence and gutter in Amory Park at 505 South 4th Avenue. And I have a pending minor review, which is actually a zoning violation at 327 East 13th Street, which was reported to you here, and we are following up on that. The applicant happens to be out of town now, so I'll not be able to do that inside next week. But when the applicant comes back from his trip, we will be able to do that. Those are the ones that I have as minor review at this point in time.
Okay, Michael, that last one was 327 East 18th.
East 13 East 13th Street in Amory Park.
And that's the zoning violation.
Yeah, it's a fence that this had been reviewed before, then the applicant decided to put on a wall that was not actually reviewed or approved. So,
Yeah, I remember that discussion. And then the one prior to that, you said, okay, there was a sign in West University, then there was solar, and what else in Armory Park at 505 South 4th?
yeah, that one is a solar, the fence, and rain catchment gutters.
Okay, hold on. I'll do my best on this and then you can fix it up. Is it solar panels?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. All right, so are you asking for volunteers for these? Or are you gonna contact people or what?
I would like to contact people because it's flexible now. Some of them are saying I'm going out of town. So I know Ricky had offered to do some inside this week. So I do not know whether she's still available for next week. Ricky, are you still available for next week?
Yeah, the same times after 2:30.
Okay,
It's on, what is that? I think, well, next week, yeah, we have our meeting, our big meeting. So I can do like Friday, any day that's not Wednesday or Thursday next week after 2:30.
okay. I'll take a note.
Great, thank you. Okay, 5B is appeals
We do not have any pending at this point in time.
and 5C is zoning violations.
I have one case that is going through the review process in West University, which is a zoning violation. I just talked to you about one of the cases that we're going to resolve. But again, we continue to work with Rick to get this violation, and it looks like code enforcement is out there very active now. So we're getting a lot of cases, but our approach is first to talk to the owners and see what they want to do before I come and report to you.
Okay. Item 5D is review process issues. Does anyone have anything they would like to discuss or bring up? Jody, I just wanted to be sure that I had emailed you and Corin about the questions that were raised about some projects by Ken Scoville. You did get that, I think, and you responded just to give you a heads up that that's what he was asking about. And I couldn't really answer his questions about the graphic for the process for the capstone project. And I just think it's better. That's why when commissioners see it in their packets, you can just briefly mention, or Corin can, what, I don't think it's different than other projects. I mean, the project itself is a little different, right?
Yes.
But I think that the whole process, we are seeing, there's different things that have to happen in order for this to happen. And so, yeah. Just wanted to give people a heads up. It's really a PRS issue and not a full commission issue, but rather than use it as something that was done improperly or, get commissioners all riled up about it, I just thought it'd be better to just be upfront so Jody could talk about it. So just, that's why, when you see that, that's why it's there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, anyone else? Okay, item 6 is summary of public comments. Were there any received?
We did not receive any public comments.
Thanks, Jody. Okay, item 7 is future agenda items. What do we have?
Well, in theory, we will have the capstone project. It was continued at West University, but eventually you'll see that. We really have probably an infill, but not too soon. I think that'll go this month. An infill development potentially in Fort Lowell. That
Mhm.
will be happening that you'll see. I'm trying to think of the 24th. Those are the only ones that I can see on the horizon at this point, but that doesn't mean that something might not pop up.
Okay, and you meant the 22nd, right? You'd said
Uh,
24th.
The 22nd, I mean, those are just future agenda items. I'm not sure that those will be on the 22nd.
Yeah, but you had said something about the 24th, and I think you meant the 22nd. So, yeah, okay, so
Sorry.
these are just future at any time. Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty, thank you. Item 8 is adjournment then. Before I adjourn, so Jody will be sending me the link to the recording and so on.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll go ahead and be adjourned at 1:57. Thanks, everyone. Record time on these 2 cases.
Thank
Have a
you.
good week. See you later. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thanks, bye.